Alright everybody, so we've got the wing walks installed. That's the black area on either side of the wing root. That is the non-skid walkway area for the aviators to step onto the wings. It's reinforced area. Let me get this lighting a little better. It's the reinforced area of the wing root where you can step without putting your foot through the canvas that these wings would be clad with in real life. So on the model, and I think I made a video just discussing it lightly, that what I typically use is wet dry sandpaper, 600 grit or finer, this stuff here, and we just take this and cut it in strips. Pick an area that's relatively unscathed. We'll try to keep it as clean as we can. We want that nice black effect, unscuffed and whatnot. So that's the material used there. And underneath that, I just put cardstock and painted it silver. It's a clear aluminum color that Tamiya makes, and it looks pretty good as an aluminum, like an aluminum sheet, and that's basically the reinforcement that goes on under the non-skid material. So we just cut the cardstock first to make sure that it's that in this case is about 15/16 wide by 3 and I think it's 3 3/4 long, and then the non-skid is cut just slightly undersized to that, about an 1/8 inch less overall width and about an 1/8 inch less overall length. And then we test fit to make sure that we have about a 1/16 exposed all the way around. Then we glue the sandpaper to the painted side of the cardstock, centering it with white glue. And you have to make sure you get good coverage. You want that wall-to-wall adhesive on there. You don't want anything left dry, because that'll lift. You don't want anything to lift off of the paper. And once that's dry, I wrap it just temporarily around one of these paint cans to get the shape, to get it curved. And then we apply with a wet white glue to the back of the cardstock part, and the assembly, the wing walks are then glued to the wing, and just positioned properly and so forth. With the white glue, you have a little bit of leeway. You have time to kind of slide things around. You don't want to be too far off the mark and have glue residue outside of where the part is actually situated. But you do have a little bit of play there. You can center things and have time to move them around. So the wing walks are installed, as are the windscreens. And again, that is done one at a time and slowly. We remove the parts from their tape backing. We pull the tape off the back of the part. We make our 2 cuts there along the center section. You see the 2 vertical cuts along the center section, so that we can fold back the wings, if you will, of the windscreen. And then we peel off our masking tape on the face of the part, exposing the frames. And then the part is white glued into position. You want to center them and make sure that they're in the right spot. And one at a time, they're applied to the airplane with the white glue bead run around the base of the part. And then once that begins to set up, you take a small fine brush. Turn this light off, we don't need it. Fine brush is used to apply white glue just around the base. Just carefully paint the white glue onto and you can do it onto the outside of the part. It's white glue, it dries clear, and doesn't leave behind much trace. So and what I'll typically do is once that's on there and that white glue is directly out of the bottle, is applied in that extra layer to the outside here. As soon as that begins to cure and clarify, I'll take this and dip it in water and just run that along any place along the body here that got paint, or that got glue onto it, and just kind of scrub the glue away a little bit, or just, wet brush it, and that makes it even finer and less visible to the eye when it dries. So that's the nature of that application. So we have our windscreens attached to the airplane, we have our wing walks, and now I'm just going to start working on the propeller. This is going to be the propeller hub. This is just hardwood dowel in an appropriate diameter. The blades will be made from this piece of 1/4 inch balsa, solid stock balsa that I've cut to a width of whatever I've cut it to here. Looks like 1/2 inch, a little over 1/2 inch. Yeah, just a shade over 1/2 inch wide. So the way this goes is we trace our propeller blades onto here, starting with a center line. I'll draw a center line down the middle of this thing as a reference point, as a datum point, and then we'll draw the outline of each blade onto it once I'm satisfied that I have the shape right. And the way I'll do that again is with cardstock templates. I'll draw a few propeller blade outlines onto this cardstock, and the one I like the best is the one I'll use to draw onto here, using the center line as a datum reference to keep each blade centered. And then most of the shaping that I do is with coarse grit sandpaper on a sanding block, that short block that I've been using. I use that to shape the overall, just the outline of each blade. I'll use it to shave the wedge shape into this thing. When you look at this end on, it's going to have a leading edge that's a little thicker and a trailing edge that's thin, that's almost knife edge. And that's all done with sandpaper. Once I have that profile correct, then I'll wrap this length of dowel with that same coarse sandpaper, and not in this method, but this is what I'll be doing, is sanding it in this direction to sand that hollow into the back edge of the propeller blade. So this will actually be sanded in an arch underneath here. We'll be sanding away material underneath that to hollow that out. And then with the sanding block, once that's done, we'll be rockering the face of the blades to give them that curved upper shape. So it'll essentially be the same profile as our wing. Convex on this side and concave underneath. And the larger radius is going to be on the face of the blade that goes into the wind, and the trailing edge on the back will be the knife edge. So once these are shaped, I'll be attaching them to either end of our hub, and then we'll use tape strips to replicate the retainer rings that are used to essentially clamp the blades. The blades are essentially a big screw, and the hub is hollowed out and threaded on the ends. So the blades screw into the hub, and then that collar, that retainer collar, is then cinched down around that threaded connection on the hub at each end, at each prop, and that's what gives the propeller its distinctive shape. So this is a Hamilton standard 1930s era propeller. It'll be chrome silver, and the tips will be red, yellow, and blue, as they were in the 1930s, late 30s. So anyway, this is the material we'll be using, described how we're going to do it, and then what I'll probably do is set up the camera so that while I'm working on the propellers, you'll see how that progresses and how that works. All right, later.